Shana Tova. It's so good to see everyone. Welcome back to those of you whose first time it is back tonight in the sanctuary for a very long time. So nice to be together. Before I start my sermon, I want to share a little bit with you about my philosophy. The purpose of the Bima is to explore urgent moral conversations. It's to bring a rabbinic perspective to you. And I want to say outright, it's okay if we don't agree with each other. Dialogue and discourse are at the heart of Judaism ever since there was a Judaism. The Torah disagrees with itself all the time. Nearly the entire Talmud, the whole thing is about rabbis with different opinions. Sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't. Sometimes problems are resolved, sometimes they're not. If you ask me, when you get too much consensus on a given topic in a room full of Jews, I start to get a little worried. So all of that is to say, I respect you and your ideas, and I hope you can respect me and my ideas too. I am hopeful that over our many years together, we will discuss urgent matters seriously, because that is the task of the Jewish people, and that is certainly what our moment calls for. Last year, I stood on this very spot and said, anti-Semitism was the worst it's ever been in my lifetime, and probably yours. That was last year. That was before anti-Semitism increased by some estimates 400%. That was before a van of angry men tore down Park Avenue in our city, screaming, "Kill the Jews," and other obscenities I will not repeat from the Bima. That was before a group of men approached diners at a restaurant in Los Angeles demanding, "Where are the Jews? Who are the Jews?" That was before a rabbi was stabbed 8 times outside of his day school. That was before violent far-right insurrectionists wore 6MWE t-shirts and Camp Auschwitz hoodies. That was before marchers in London shouted, "Kill the Jews and rape our daughters." That was before the idea of Israel as a uniquely diabolical state became a cemented belief in the hearts and minds of so many. I said anti-Semitism was the worst it's ever been in my lifetime last year, before the FBI announced that 58% of religiously motivated hate crimes are against us, the Jewish people, which make up 2% of the population. That was before day school children had to go to school behind the protection of counterterrorism units in our city. That was before we had to start requesting additional police presence in our synagogue. We knew it was bad last year, and that was before this time of immense hate turned itself towards the Jewish people. So my question for you tonight is this: why aren't we electric with rage? Why aren't we frantically flocking to create a formidable counterforce to the terrifying, triggering, obvious anti-Semitism of our day? Why aren't we beside ourselves, shouting from our platforms about this injustice? Think about it. We don't even have a hashtag. Why aren't we mobilizing to combat the incontrovertible, well-documented, self-proclaimed, far-reaching anti-Semitism of our day? You think it's pandemic fatigue? I don't. I think it's something deeper. You may know this famous Jewish teaching from a Talmudic sage called Hillel. He said, "Im ein ani li, mili, ukshe ani la'atzmi, ma ani." If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, who am I? Non-Orthodox Jews like us have always been better at the latter and shied away from the former. We are good, really good, at being there for others, less so for ourselves. And that's what I want to explore with you tonight. If I am only for myself, who am I? We are great at that, at being there for others. And we should be deeply proud. It is the Jewish obligation to see the other and to have empathy for the other. It's not a choice, not an option. It's a commandment. Remember the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Remember the sojourner, the alien, the widow, the orphan, the other. What a brilliant tradition we have. The commandment to care for the most vulnerable in a society came at the moment of our greatest vulnerability, right after the Israelites broke free from slavery, after we crossed the sea. We were stuck in the middle of the desert, fragile, traumatized, lost, and with no home, very unlikely to continue to even exist as a people. And out of all of the commandments in Torah, that is the one we get. Don't think of ourselves, even when we are at our most desperate moment. Think about the other, about people near and far, within and beyond who are different, and care for them, protect them, support them, remember them. As I said, as Reformed Jews, we are so good at this. Our movement carries out organized, religiously fueled efforts to secure voting rights, for immigration justice, to welcome refugees. We ourselves may feel very secure in our ability to vote. We feel secure as citizens, and we are not refugees in this generation for the most part. But we fight for those who cannot. We are not only for ourselves. In fact, right now, you may not know that the sparse resources of our movement, your dues that we pay into our movement, are going to prevent Uyghur labor in China and to hold the Burmese military accountable for ethnic cleansing, for example. In areas big and small, we live Hillel's teaching: service learning trips, building homes for the needy, raising money for refugees, racial justice, climate change, gender equity, you name it, we're in it. We are good at it. We must continue thinking about others, fighting for them, not only being for ourselves, is one of the greatest strengths of liberal Judaism. We must continue the work. It's a Jewish obligation, and we are the forerunners. But what about the other part of the sentence? The part that says, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? As good as we are with one part of the teaching, we struggle just the same amount with the other part of that sentence. And it makes sense. Our history portends that we be just that way. Being less particularly Jewish, less pulled towards the idea of being a people at all, was the major feature of our early Reform movement ancestors. Pray in the language of the country in which you live, they insisted. Pray in German, in English, in French, not Hebrew. Dress like the Gentiles of the country in which you live. Don't wear a kippah on the street. Don't show tzitzit. Shave your beard. And we did. Cincinnati is our Jerusalem, the early reformers proclaimed with pride. We are no longer a nation, they wrote, but a religious creed. Stop being a people, they argued. Be universal. Be an idea, a belief. Be like everyone else. Embrace Kant, they said. Less so, Kohelet. That is our historical legacy. And even though those early reformers themselves changed their minds on many of those topics, still, that legacy is lodged deeply within our liberal Jewish personality. So it's no wonder we sometimes feel ambivalent about embracing the Jewish collective, about standing for ourselves the same way we do for others. It's our philosophical inheritance. And by the way, our culture, our current context, doesn't make it easy for us to be for ourselves either. Some brave liberal Jews did try to organize this year, very hard. Some right here in our community, in your workplace, or in your children's schools, or online. You simply tried to gather to talk about anti-Semitism, about how hard it is to be a teenager and to face the negative wrath of the internet, to talk about being a Jewish American and to wrestle with Israel's policies and practices in today's world. And what were we told over and over again? We were told, now it's not the time. Jews don't need to organize. We were told Jews are privileged, so we should just sit quietly and listen, as if privilege has helped to stop the most heinous of crimes against us in the past, as if we can't have access to some types of privilege, but not all privilege. Jews are not a minority, we were told, or we can't figure out how exactly to categorize you, so you don't qualify. Across the country, Jewish history was gently erased from school curricula, and Jewish identity was excluded from national and local conversations about identity. And it was pretty easy, actually, to gently, even politely, shame us or dissuade us from simply trying to get together. Question for you? What's so problematic about Jews gathering? As if by simply getting together and acknowledging our shared identity, we, a tiny people, are a threat to the larger collective? As if by even saying we are a people seems inextricably troubling? As if standing up against Jewish hate is a political matter? As if standing together against anti-Semitism means we feel one way or another about Israel? As if we, an ancient people, have to accept the newest and most current categories of how others label us and name us and view us. I think we can tell our own stories. We can define our own categories. We can speak for ourselves, and we can be ourselves. I want to pause here and share why I focus mostly on the anti-Semitism we experience in more liberal-friendly settings. Let me state quite clearly that the hate for the Jewish people that emanates from the far right is detestable. Jews will not replace us, they chant with their torches and shaved heads. Fine people do not make Nazi salutes. Those people are violent, villainous, hateful, and dangerous. Unequivocally, I condemn them. They must be quickly quieted and publicly punished. I focus on the anti-Semitism of the left because, for the most part, that's us. Most of our community, myself included, agrees with the left on so very many crucial topics. And so, when anti-Semitism seems to come from that place, that's where the pain is for us. That's the messiness and the complication and the confusion of our real lives. And that's our job, to really sit in that mess, to ponder history, modernity, and our own ambivalence about being a people, and to do it together. So I want to assure you that despite the messages you receive implicitly or explicitly from the world, that Jews do count. You count. Your children count. Your history counts. Our history counts. In a world exploding with identity politics, Jewish identity counts as well. The pain and persecution that we have suffered for centuries counts. When violence erupts in America against us, we know we've already waited too long to voice up. The anti-Semitism of our time is real, and there's no justification. It's not that people hate me or that they hate you. It's that people hate us because we are Jews. People who do anti-Semitic violent acts don't first poll you to check in on your feelings about Israel or how you voted in an election. They don't care. They don't hate you. They don't hate me. They hate us. They hate the Jewish people. They hate the collective. And so the question for us is, how much are we willing to identify with our people? Do we believe in the idea of a Jewish people? Or are we still somehow like those early reformers? Is Washington Square Park our Jerusalem? Are political ideologies our religion? Are op-ed columnists our demigods? Or is there another way? Political values are a valid lens to see the world. Human, universal values are a valid lens to see the world. But Jewish values are also a lens to see the world, and they are ours. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, who am I? Can we be brave enough to be for ourselves just a little more this year? Last year, I preached pride as a way to combat anti-Semitism. Show your Jewish identity, wear your Jewish star, tell others about our food, teach a friend a Hebrew song, tell them about what your family went through to even get here. Live your Judaism. And I still want us to do that. But now I see it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. We've waited too long to stand up for ourselves, and that needs to stop now. So start pushing. Now is the time to organize, to vocalize, to gather, and to do it again and again and again. Now is the time to take a risk online and post our actual opinions. Now is the time to ensure that others do not define the Jewish project and the Jewish people. We must be the ones to define it. So tell your educators, your higher-ups, that Jews too have a story to tell. We are a people with complexity, history, diversity, problems, and promise. There's one more line of Hillel's teaching, by the way. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, who am I? And if not now, when? Now is the time. We will continue to fight for others. It's the required thing to do, but also it's just the right thing to do. But this new year, 5782, my prayer for us is that we fight for ourselves just a little bit more, and that we do it starting now. Shana Tova. Shana Tova.